Hello and welcome to Legal Bites. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legal Bites merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it. All right. So the hearing is, it looked like it was about to start, and then they shifted the view again, but I wanted to be ready anyway, and I wanted to talk a little bit ahead of time anyway. Oh, and here comes a kitty cat. Here, Holmes, come here. Come here, bud. Over here. I know. I've got some drinks in the way here. All right, turn around so everybody can see you. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy Monday to everyone. I know for folks who normally watch the channel on Mondays, you might be expecting classic trials, a normal Menendez Monday, right? But instead of Menendez Monday, we've got a Murdaugh Monday. This is the first time that I am talking about this case on this channel. I know it was a huge deal a year ago. I was in the middle of a major move from one country to another, so I was not able to jump into it until it was already over. So, but this is a very, very interesting hearing today because as you probably know, there have been some very interesting allegations that have come out since the verdict was rendered, finding Alex Murdaugh guilty of. Sorry, not an earthquake. That's Holmes. Guilty of murder of his wife and his son. So, of course, I know that was, like I said, it was a huge, huge trial. The allegation, of course, as many of you know, probably all of you know at this point, is against the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill. There are a number of allegations. And the biggest ones are that she tampered with the jury, that she had all kinds of improper conversations with jurors where she was trying to influence the jurors to try to convict Murdaugh. So there, like I said, it's a number of allegations that have come out as well, including some improper use of public funds for her own gain, things like that. Her book, which she also now has admitted that she plagiarized her book that she wrote about the whole thing. So there's so many things about Miss Becky Hill in this case that have come out in recent months. But this particular hearing, though, is going to be not about the other things, not about the book, not about the plagiarism, not about the other public funds. Okay, here's the court feed here. And yeah, I've got the volume up. Okay, so once they start talking, I might pause it and then get going, and we'll catch up in like 2 minutes. But anyway, this hearing is specifically about the jury tampering issue. So it's specifically about A, whether or not she interfered with the jury, she tampered with the jury by trying to influence them, and B, whether or not they actually were influenced. So this is something that is very important to understand, because you can have her doing cartwheels down the hall, every single day saying convict, convict, convict. But if the jurors weren't actually influenced by any of her activity, any of her behavior, the conviction will still stand and there won't be a new trial. However, if there are some jurors that say, yeah, actually, I was a little intimidated by her, or actually I was, on the fence and she kind of nudged me another way, that is something that is very important, because that can result in a new trial potentially, which, I mean, as you guys know, that was a 6-week trial, or 6-week, 8-week trial. I mean, it was massive. So if that's going to happen again, these are massive public resources that would have to go into another trial, which is why we have to be very careful about actually taking away this conviction and going to trial again. Like I said, it's the two-pronged approach. And I saw some people on the internet talking about how this was like a huge blow to Murdaugh and to the defense, because that they had set up these requirements. But that's really the default everywhere. Anytime we are talking about juror improprieties or jury tampering, we are talking about these requirements that were outlined in this case. So it's the same across the board. This is really nothing new that has been put forward in this case, rather than what any lawyer would see just about anywhere else for a jury tampering case. So all right, let me get this really quick here. Nick Wilson, member for 16 months. Thanks so much for being a member. Got cat massage in my abdomen at the moment. Love seeing the cat love. Nosy Neighbor 99 became a YouTube member. Welcome to Bite Club. Thanks so much for becoming a YouTube member of the channel and supporting the channel. Really, really, really appreciate that. So here's what's going to happen with this hearing, by the way. It did get started on Friday. There was one juror who testified. And that was, as you probably know, that was outside the presence of cameras. They did have media there. They allowed the public there, but they did not allow people to talk about the testimony until this morning. And I believe that the reason for that is because they knew that they were going to have the rest of the jurors testifying today. They don't want there to be public information about this testimony before everybody else testifies, which is fine. Okay. There's been a lot of changes to these orders by Judge Toll, which has been kind of frustrating to keep up with for a lot of people I know. But the one juror who did testify on Friday, what I read was that their testimony was about 15 minutes. Questions of the jurors are by the judge, not of either attorney on either side, which is it should go a lot smoother than I think a lot of testimonies and a lot of trials for that reason. And then in the afternoon, we will hear from Becky Hill, and she will actually be examined by the attorneys, not by the judge. So that will be different. Let me get some questions here real quick. Flashman85, thanks so much for the super chat. Hey, Alita, my fave law tuber, how are you today? I'm doing well. How are you? I hope you had a good weekend. Debbie Face on Cook, are they talking to all of the jurors or just the ones that talk to Becky? So what they are doing is they are talking to all of the jurors who actually rendered the verdict. So none of the alternates, none of the people who had been dismissed previously, but the ones that actually gave their vote for the verdict. So this was something that the defense really fought against, is what I was reading, because they really wanted to have, you guys have probably heard of like the egg lady, for example, one of the jurors who was dismissed at one point during the trial, and she had asked to like go back to the jury room so that she could collect her like dozen eggs or something that she had been given by another juror or something like that. So so she's one that the defense really wanted to be able to testify here. But at the end of the day, like I said, it had to be two elements here that each juror needed to be able to testify to. Is number one, did Becky Hill have improper conversations about the trial during the trial? And number two, did that have an impact on their ultimate vote at the verdict time? So people that didn't actually vote on the verdict can't answer that second element. So that's why they're being excluded. So that is, yeah. So that's why we're just hearing from the ones who actually rendered their verdict. As for Becky Hill and her testimony, The defense did say at the hearing on Friday. So, like I said, the juror who testified on Friday, it was only like 15 minutes of testimony. I would gather that the rest of the jurors will be similar because the judge basically has certain questions that the judge is that she's going to go through, and they'll just have to answer yes or no, yes or no. So it should be relatively fast for each one of those. Um, the rest of the hearing on Friday was the two sides arguing back and forth about what they were going to do moving forward, like what kind of stuff they could get into with the Becky Hill testimony. The defense, of course, wanted to get into the plagiarism and the improper funds and all this kind of stuff. They said that, oh, it's all relevant, it's all important, it's all salient. But the judge said this is a case about jury tampering, so we are limiting it to that. I'm curious to see if they're still going to try to see if they can argue that the door has somehow been opened by prior testimony, by on direct examination, that maybe there's something that they, like I said, like opening the door as to honesty or something like that, that maybe they can try to squeeze in some testimony on something else. But we'll see. I from what I know about these defense attorneys, I wouldn't put it past them to at least try. So we'll see. um let's see here. This is an interesting point here. I know. It's Trenton. Egg Lady was an actual juror that Becky got DQ'd, so it was an aspect of misconduct that the judge is just writing off without a hearing. That is, I know. This is one. That's the reason why the defense was so adamant about having her be able to testify, because if as the allegation goes, if Miss Hill knew that she was not feeling the prosecution's case, and that she was likely to acquit or at least not convict, maybe end up with a hung jury or something, be that juror who is staunch in their opinion that maybe the prosecution has not done enough in order to convict. um the allegation is that because she seemed like that kind of person, that Becky then uh, arranged to have her removed from the jury. um I completely understand that is um I completely understand that is like their argument, and that's um it's, if that's the case, it sucks, because that is actually improperly sort of crafting the jury so that it's made up of people who will convict, but yeah, so I do understand that there are some people that don't like that decision. They don't like that move for that particular reason. Um, so anyway, um, anyway, so while we are still getting started, let me know if you guys have any more questions on any of this. Also, um, we definitely got an early start on this. And I wasn't so sure that we were going to get through all of this before they got started. But I'm sure there's more that can be talked about for sure. To be honest with you, okay. So here's something that I can say. My thoughts going into it. It's a very high burden. It's a very high burden to overturn any conviction on a jury tampering issue or a jury impropriety issue. It's a very high burden. So like I said, there's the two elements. Did the improper thing happen? Did somebody interfere? Did somebody talk to them and try to influence them? And then did that actually have an impact on the actual verdict? Did that actually have an impact on the way that the juror decided to vote? Could be because of her presumed level of power. Maybe they thought that, maybe they were worried that she has influence, and she was going to sort of, like, I don't know, do something bad to them if they didn't convict. Maybe at the same time they sort of trusted her word and her analysis of the evidence or something. It could be something along those lines. But what we're looking for is for a juror to say, yes, I would have voted otherwise had she not done these things. I would not have convicted had she done these other things. It's going to be very hard for any juror to come forward and say that, I think. Because you can have someone come in and try to lobby for, try to lobby a particular case to you, and that if you don't see it, you don't see it. You know what I mean? Like maybe you've got your own thoughts anyway, and you're just like, all right, that's fine. She's the clerk, but I'm the juror. It's up to me at the end of the day. But um, but yeah. So Blue, this is an interesting point. The problem is that he didn't get a fair trial, guilty or not. Even the guilty deserve a fair trial. Absolutely, the guilty deserve a fair trial. Everyone does. I mean, that's why we have such strong requirements for due process. At the end of the day, though, if the result would have been the same without this misconduct by Becky, right? If the result would have been the same at the end of the day, we also don't want to overturn a conviction because these other things have happened, or I guess despite these things happening. We don't want to overturn a conviction if we know that the result would have been the same, because of the fact that, courts also have to balance a lot of things. They have to balance. I mean, obviously there's justice to the defendant, justice to the victims, justice to, everybody involved in the process. That is number one. At the same time, courts can't just throw out verdicts willy-nilly because of the resources that all of this takes. Like, I was reading that it probably cost Colleton County like hundreds of thousands of dollars, just the county itself, of public funds, to put on this trial before. Oh, I wonder if the judge must be in. Is that why people are getting? No. Okay, no, it's just people in the. Okay, never mind. People are getting in. But I mean, but it's true. I mean, here's the other harm in this. It's not just to the defendant if there's been improprieties here, because let's say multiple jurors come testify that, yeah, she was totally improper. She was totally, like, she said and did all of these terrible things that she wasn't supposed to do. She was actively trying to influence us to convict him, to try to, like, get us to ignore testimony and don't believe, there was something about a statement that she had made to, like, don't let him fool you or something when he was going to be testifying, when he was taking the stand himself. Totally improper stuff. If this is true, and this is what they're going to testify to, that's incredibly improper. The harm is not just to the defendant, the harm is to everyone. Even if this doesn't get overturned, the conviction doesn't get overturned, um the allegations as such are incredibly harmful to the institution itself, because we want to know that our judicial system is running properly. Not to say that these allegations shouldn't have come forward, because if these things did in fact happen, these allegations absolutely should come forward, and everything should come to light, and we should deal with it and move forward. But it harms everyone, not just the defendant. It harms everyone when these kinds of things happen. Assuming that these things did in fact happen. Of course, I wasn't there. I don't know myself. I'm gonna watch the testimony of the jurors myself, and and come to my own conclusions. So yeah. Here's a good question from Mountain Princess 207. How come they didn't put him in a suit? So probably because he has in fact already been convicted, and the one that is making a determination here is the judge and not a jury. So usually they put people in street clothes because they don't want people to be improperly influenced, right? This is most often for defendants who have not yet been convicted, because it looks like conviction in, like, in clothing, right? It speaks convict. So you don't want someone to show up to trial, for example, wearing prison clothes, right? But this might be different because of the fact that he has in fact been convicted, and because of the fact that this is also the judge who is making the decision on this hearing. I'm not sure, not entirely sure, but yeah. So Alrighty. Yeah, I have the sound on here and it's not playing any actual audio just yet, but that's fine. Here's a question from Blue. Do they get in trouble if they admit this though? Do you mean do the jurors get in trouble if they admit that Becky Hill talked to them? I might need clarification on your question. They shouldn't. If they have not done anything wrong and it's someone else who has come up and been talking with them, and especially if that someone was someone who works for the courthouse. You know what I mean? Like the clerk is someone who like really should be like should be trustworthy. We should be able to trust the clerk to be to not show any partiality, to be someone who is helping to put the wheels in motion and keep everything on rails, and like that we really should be able to trust the clerk. So if it is someone who is the clerk who's supposed to be part of like the process itself, it's not an outside person, for example. It's not like someone from from the media who's like following jurors home and trying to ask them questions, or like trying to intimidate them, or media, or some other random person, right? I can understand a juror not necessarily reporting that, because who do you report it to? If of course you report it to the judge, but someone who is a juror might not necessarily understand or think like who can I even tell if not the clerk. Hey Mabby. Hi. Little cat's coming. She's gonna have a snooze sesh. But no, the jurors shouldn't get in trouble for someone else coming up and talking to them and trying to influence them. Obviously it's best if they are reporting that to the judge, like right when it happens, and as it happens and as it continues. That's the best. But I mean, if they haven't done anything, wrong, then no, they shouldn't get in trouble. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there are other questions. Lazarus, I've been out of the loop. I thought this whole case was done. I know so many people did, right? Nope. I mean, it might be after today, although the defense did say that they are intending to appeal if they lose this hearing. So, oops, wrong one. There we go. All right, so we've got the judge in the courtroom. We don't have any audio feed yet. This is Judge Toll. She used to be a Supreme Court justice in South Carolina. So obviously a very seasoned judge, which is good to have in this kind of a case. I wish we could hear what she's saying. Yeah, I'm just double checking. Yeah, my audio is on. Okay, let me see if maybe it's the feed. Let me see, because what I'm using is Long Crime. Okay. Okay, Court TV is the same. I don't know why. Oh.
But I don't want to be photographed.
Rise.
Good morning. Please be seated.
Okay. So the Court TV feed is a little bit delayed behind the Long Crime feed, which is weird because it's all through Court TV. Anyway,
Ladies and gentlemen, and I now address these remarks to the members of the press. You have not been completely in accord with what I asked you to do last Friday, but you've all done me the great favor of obeying what I asked you to do with respect to the identity of the jurors, and I thank you very much for that. The first order of business after I give some preliminary remarks will be the examination one by one of the jurors. And what will happen is I will bring all of the jurors in to begin with, and they will be seated. I will make remarks to the entire panel. I will then ask that the jury be taken to their jury room, and I will one by one call the jurors and address them. And I will address them by a letter that I have developed rather than their number. Now, I realize full well that many of you who attended this trial for many, many weeks probably know these jurors. And I'm not making any further statement about what you do or don't do in terms of identifying the jurors. But I don't want any photographs.
oh boy.
I don't want any photographs taken of the jurors by the media. With respect to the rest of the audience, if you have devices, cell phones, iPads, or anything of that nature, please silence them. Please do not use them. The press is allowed to use their devices in order to make notes, but the press is not making any photographs either. I have a pool
hopefully that's the only time
photographer
that happens.
as well as a pool court TV arrangement, and that's what will be used to photograph, and that those materials will of course be fed and available to the press. I think if there's anything else. All right. All right. The jurors are in place in the jury room, Mr. Bailiff.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Bring me the jurors.
Bring me the jurors. I love it.
Sure. Hold for a minute. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, you have a list of questions you've distributed to us. And
yes, sir.
Of course, you went through those with Juror
Z. Or X.
X. I knew it was one of those last letters. Juror X. The third question you say, did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comments about the merits of this case before your verdict?
Yes, sir.
And clearly the juror didn't understand what the word merits meant.
I disagree with that, but you may make your record about that. I think the juror understood what was being asked. And frankly, in some of the materials that we've exchanged back and forth about questions, you yourself have used the word merit. So I don't think she was confused.
Well, Your Honor, occasionally I make a mistake. I think in this case, perhaps you've made a mistake. And if you would just respectfully use the word, did make any comment about the case before your verdict. Just leaves out their judgment about merits. They don't know if merits is a legal word.
I will take what you say into account, but I have already examined one juror using that term, and you now say that that term confused the juror. You have that on the record, and certainly would be able to argue that to any of the appellate courts that review what I do here, but my intention is to use the language that I used with the juror I've already interviewed.
But Your Honor, you went and did a follow-up question, our request, which elaborated on what that meant. And certainly after you asked that question, we think that clarified it, and you could use merits or anything else about the case and deal with both issues. I just think it's going to require us, based on
the reaction
statements
of
that
the people behind
these
him,
jurors have
like,
given to SLAD, to ask very specific questions.
Okay, I understand what you're asking. Let me ask you this, Mr. Harpootlian. Do you happen to have the transcript of Friday's proceedings?
I don't think so.
State, do you all happen to have a transcript of Friday's proceedings?
Your Honor, we're looking right now.
Belay that. I've got a copy. Let me look at it for a minute to see what I did in clarification. And so just pause for a minute. Let me look at that.
What a way to start. I think, well, Your Honor, and at times in the past, I've made a mistake. And maybe in this case, you've made a mistake. Whoa, what a way to start the day. Oh, my goodness. Man. Hey, there. Hi, puppy. Hi. Want for some loves? Yeah. That was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser for sure.
Mr. Harpootlian,
Yes, Your Honor.
I look at this transcript and the only thing I note.
Wait, there's
Hang on.
follow-up. Okay. Okay, these were the
Okay, hang on.
follow-up questions.
Okay, all right. I said this. I asked the attorneys for any further commentary about the questions I asked, and I have been asked to ask one more question, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to read you a memorandum by the state to counsel for the defense and then ask you about it, all right?
You got the-
And then here's what I read. Per Chief Attorney Waters, please be advised that the attorney for Juror X has told us that his client says that prior to the defendant's testimony, his client did hear Clerk Hill say words to the effect of, quote, looks like the defendant is going to testify. This is an important day, close quote. Or, quote, this is an epic day, close quote. And that there was some statement that it was rare for a defendant to testify. And then I said, Juror X, can you verify that what I've read is something you heard and told your attorney? And she says, yes, ma'am. Very good. Do these statements have any impact on your verdict? No, ma'am. Very good. I will ask that question.
Well,
I didn't change well, I've read you what I asked. I will be glad to do that again.
Your Honor, different jurors say different things based on the memorandums we've received.
I won't say you told your attorney or anything like that, but I will ask about that statement having been made.
Your Honor, just for the record, we believe the term merits is a term of art, just as if you asked them was there probable cause. Again, or anything else, we're not asking you to open Pandora's box.
I hear what you say, and I will take it into account.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Waters, anything on your behalf?
I do not have anything further, Your Honor. We believe the term is self-explanatory.
Thank you, sir.
So, yeah, merits, depending on the context, the word merits can be confusing. It can be ambiguous. So it depends on the context in which it comes up. But keep in mind that if, just like any witness, if a juror is confused as to the meaning of a particular word, best practice is always to speak up and say that. To say, I don't understand what you mean by the word merits. What exactly do you mean by the word
Mr.
merits?
Harpootlian, I'll have to go to my screen to do this other, but the third question will read, did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before the verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's what I'll ask. All right. All right, Mr. Bailiff, bring me the jury.
All right. And by the way, we will not be seeing the jurors, obviously, or jurors, because they want to maintain their privacy. Of course, as always. Even though they're witnesses right now, they are still jurors. In a case like this, which is this high profile, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Sound is out. So bringing in the jurors. I wonder where they're going to put the camera when they testify.
It's the same thing, except with
Patty B, will we hear the testimonies? Yes, we will be hearing them. We won't see them. They will be referenced by their juror number, not by their name. But we won't, we won't see them, but we will
Juror C, Your Honor.
hear them.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the State versus Murdaugh jury. I wanted to make a few opening remarks to you before I question each of you about the matter. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. None of you, not any of you. You didn't ask to serve, but you served and did your duty. This was an unusually difficult trial because of its length. 6 weeks is almost unheard of in South Carolina as the length of a case. It was difficult because of the intense publicity and public interest in the case. It was difficult because of the complexity of testimony and exhibits in the case. And you acquitted yourself honorably. So this question today is not about anything you did wrong. Please be assured of that. I respect you and I respect your service. Today, I'm going to ask you to do something that's difficult. This case is unique. Most of the time, if there's some issue about improper conduct or contact with a juror, it comes up immediately. The judge puts questions to the juror and perhaps to the person who may have made a improper comment, and then you go on to verdict. Or sometimes it's very shortly after the verdict is rendered. And again, the judge questions the affected jurors and the supposed interference and makes a ruling right then and there on either a new trial or a mistrial. Now here, we are almost a year after your beginning of service on this case. And that makes it mighty difficult for you to do something I'm going to ask you to do, and it's this. Today, I ask you to focus your attention.
What is going on in the courtroom?
What is that?
Yeah, I want to know too.
Mr. Bailiff, what is that noise?
I'm not sure.
What's happening?
Is that the sound system doing
I
that?
believe it's the court sound system.
This is the funkiest sound system in the world, so you just have to keep up with it. I've had trouble in every case I've ever tried with the sound system. So, jurors, if something happens and the sound system goes haywire, we'll stop for a minute until it stops.
Thank you. We
Now,
appreciate that, Your Honor.
As I was saying, I want you to focus your attention as you
I like
answer
you
the
so far.
questions I'm going to ask you. On your 6 weeks of experience as a juror in this case, and on the point in the trial where the judge charged you, and on your verdict as you rendered it on March the 2nd, 2023. That's what I want the focus to be. And then I know I'm asking a lot to have you cast yourself back into that time, but that's what the questions I'm asking are about that time and not about this time. There has been so much drama about this matter since the verdict was rendered.
You could say that
My
again.
heart goes out to everyone, the lawyers and you who are in this trial. That I can't help. But I've been asked by the Supreme Court to take a look at this issue. The appeal is on pause until I do, and I've got to do my duty as I see it. And you do yours as I know you see it. So I thank you very much in advance for, again, the terrible inconvenience of calling you all back together now. But
I
it's
can't
very
imagine.
essential to completing the record about this case and placing it before the appellate authorities as it needs to be. So in advance, I thank you. What I'm going to do now is dismiss you to the jury room, and one by one, I will call you, and I will refer to you by a letter that I have just assigned you that isn't your jury number and certainly isn't your name. You know, these people in the media saw y'all all through the trial. They probably know who you are. But I'm trying to do my duty as I see it when I make your appearance here anonymous to the record. And only the clerk, the court reporter will have a sealed document by me indicating what the key means in terms of your juror number and your name. So I'm doing everything I can do about this matter. But it goes without saying that your business is your own business. You don't have to interview with a soul, not lawyers, not
Lawyers.
media, not anyone
I love it.
after this matter. That choice is purely yours. And I will respect that and protect that to the best I can if anything comes up afterwards. All right, you may go to the jury room.
The way the judge talks kind of makes me miss South Carolina a little bit. I lived there for like a year, like such a short little blip of time. But I love a South Carolina accent. So jurors is just, it's great. I love it. All right. So, opening remarks. I like that she started off by saying, "You're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. You were asked to
All right,
call to
Mr.
serve."
Bailiff, bring me Juror Z.
Juror
Another
Z.
matter.
Yes,
One of the individuals sitting in the jury box called this, the next jury, liar publicly, and asked that that'd be Mr. Bland and his partner, cohort, not sit behind her or near her while she's testifying.
I object.
well, just a minute.
Your Honor, I object to him speaking.
One moment. We're not going to have a big colloquy about this. Keep your seat for a moment, Mr.
Colloquy
Colloquy.
about this.
Bland, you do the same. Mr. Bender, is there a seat over next to you?
There is.
Mr. Bland, will you go over and sit next to Mr. Bender, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's fair. Fine. You want to make sure that the juror that's about
For
to
the
testify
record,
is
I have
comfortable.
some people in
As
the jury
comfortable as
box.
they can be.
Two of them are SLED agents. One of them is the media consultant, and one of them is attorney for several of the jurors, Mr. Bland. And that's being done at my direction.
Hey, Justice, told you have Scott Mongillo, Blaine Richter, also in the jury box.
Very good. Yes, sir. That's fine. All right. Bring me Juror Z.
Bring me Juror Z. I love it. Okay, I'm going to update pinned comment in the live chat with who's testifying. Man, the anticipation.
Juror Z, you may take the witness box after you are sworn. Step over here to the clerk and she will administer the oath.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please raise your hand.
Please don't state your name for the record.
Juror Z, I will ask you some questions, and there are no right or wrong answers. The truth is what I seek, and that is the truth of what you experienced in relation to these questions at the State versus Murdaugh trial. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. That verdict was read in open court by the foreperson of the jury. And then the court said this: Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, let it be known by raising your hand. The transcript then indicates that the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate statement about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh.
If yes, what did Ms. Hill say?
To watch his actions.
To watch his actions. What else?
To watch him closely.
To watch him closely. Anything else you remember?
There is, but I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine. Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023, in any way with any influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case? Want me to
Yes,
read it
ma'am.
again?
Yes, please.
All right. Was your verdict influenced in any way by the communications of the clerk of court in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
And how was it influenced?
To me, it felt like
Wow.
she made it seem like he was already guilty.
All right?
Ooh.
And I understand that, that's the tenor of the remarks she made. Did that affect your finding of guilty in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Oh my God.
Be at ease. Those are my questions are submitted to the juror. Are there any reactions, further questions, and so forth? If there are, and you would like to voice them, I can ask the juror to retire to the jury room. Just tell me whether I need to do that.
She's shocked. I'm shocked. Here I was saying, oh, it's like unlikely that someone actually was influenced. And good Lord, she actually said yes. First one out of the gate.
Your Honor, can we ask the juror we need to put some things on the record.
All right. Take the juror to the jury room, please.
Holy crap. Oh my God. Okay, so we've got some questions here. Let me see if I can get to them before they start talking again. Draco Amy uploads. Not sure if you covered this or not, but what's the best case, worst case scenario here? Depends on how you're looking at it. If you're from the defense perspective, worst case is the verdict stands and
Mr. Ward.
they say that they're
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to.
Your Honor, in the
Best case is they get a new trial.
affidavit that was given by this particular juror, paragraph 10 said, I have questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but I vote guilty because I felt pressured by the other jurors. We would request an inquiry as to that, which is how this motion was filed. She expressed the basis for her verdict, which obviously this answer is a little different now. So we would request a brief inquiry from the court as to that specific issue.
All right.
Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right. Mr. Clerk,
Your Honor, as to Two
she
things.
already
First thing is,
testified.
he is correct. She gave an affidavit. We would ask Your Honor to let her read her affidavit to refresh her memory of, she said other things. They're very detailed in here. We'd ask you to, and let me hand up to the court, a copy of her affidavit.
The thing is, two things can be true. She could have been influenced by the other jurors, and she could have been influenced by the court clerk as well. So she already testified that the court clerk influenced her, regardless of whether the other jurors did
What I
too.
have here, Mr. Waters, for the record,
The well is already
Ms. Waters?
poisoned.
what I've been handed for the record is something, affidavit of juror, now referred to as Z. It was taken August the 14th, 2023. It was sworn before Holly Miller, paralegal for Mr. Harpootlian, and he would like for me to give that to the juror and ask her to read it and then ask her about it. I'm inclined to do that, but I want to hear from you first.
Your Honor, again, if they want to refresh the recollection, that's fine with the state. So we have no objection to that.
Very good. It will be done.
Your Honor, also, we would ask that you not ask the question that that Mr. Waters asked you to ask, because it violates Rule 606B, which provides, upon an inquiry into the validity of a verdict or indictment, a juror may not testify to the effect of anything upon that or any other juror's mind or emotions.
What was the question he asked?
If you look at that affidavit,
It's paragraph 10, Your Honor.
paragraph 10,
It's in the very affidavit.
she said she was influenced by other jurors.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask her about that. I'm gonna give her the affidavit and then I'm gonna question her about it.
And we would, for the record, indicate that we object to that under 606B.
Your Honor, from our perspective, she's put an
And
issue.
you're the one that asked me to have her look at this affidavit, but you telling me I can't question about it? I deny that objection.
Your Honor, if it's something that's inadmissible, you should not ask her about it. and that's
Well, you want me to
inadmissible.
admit it and have her examined
No, I
on it.
want
I
you
mean,
to
it is in the
have her
affidavit.
read it to refresh her memory.
We're quibbling, Mr. Harper, we're quibbling about things that I'm not gonna take time to quibble about. My ruling is pursuant to your request, I am going to allow the juror to examine her affidavit, and then I'm going to question her about it. That's my ruling. Your objection is overruled.
For the record, I just want to note, Your Honor, just
Tell the
here,
record,
You
ma'am.
noted
Already
606,
on the
I
record.
hear you noted.
and in no way waiving anything or opening any door by asking you to let her
That's
examine.
for a higher court than me to decide.
Well, I understand that, and that's why I want to make sure when they read this transcript, there's no confusion. I'm not asking you to put that into evidence. I'm asking you to
Well,
let
I
the
don't
jury
see
know.
how in the world I can question the juror about something and not put it into evidence. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Mr. Harpootlian. You could have been very satisfied with the answers that were already given, but you have chosen to ask about this.
Withdraw the request.
Denied.
Your Honor, all the time we ask witnesses to
Mr.
examine a
Harpootlian,
prior statement.
Mr. Harpootlian, I made my ruling. Please take your seat. All right, bring me Juror Z. Get me another copy.
It's in here.
Yeah.
It's in here.
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. The objection is on the record. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Poot, but he is zealously advocating on behalf of his client. And sometimes it's you've got to be the asshole to do it. Everybody else might hate you, but if that's the way that you're representing your clients, how you're doing it.
Madam Juror, you gave an affidavit to a representative of Mr. Harpootlian on August the 14th, 2023. And I have this in my hand at the present time. And I'm going to hand it to you. And I'm going to ask that you read it. Tell me when you completed reading it. And then I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to see 4 little boxes on this affidavit. They are your name and the names of 2 of the jurors. I will strike that out before it appears in the record, just so you understand. Mr. Baird, please pass this to the juror. Take a moment to read this and tell me when you have completed reading. Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me see if I can get some questions here before we get started again. Debbie Faison said, does the word merit have a legal definition and a regular definition like the word malice? It can be a term of art. It can be under law, and it can have different meanings under different contexts, which is the basis of the objection by the defense. Should she be making such comments disparaging the case, says Blue? I didn't see her comments as disparaging the case. I think she was more, I saw it as her empathizing with the jurors and having to be part of a 6-week trial. That's a massive, massive undertaking. And for these jurors to have to put their lives on hold, sometimes things come up also that make things hard. That's how I read her comments. But unless there's something that I maybe you heard that I didn't or something, I'm not sure. Debbie Faison Cook, the questions are all going to be the same, aren't they? Basically, they're going to have the
Very good.
same overall structure, but where there's some slight differences, they're
The
going to.
first paragraph,
You can
of course, is a statement that you are a juror in the case. Second paragraph says, toward the end of the trial after the President's Day break, but before Mr. Murdaugh testified, the clerk of court, Becky Hill, told the jury, quote, not to be fooled, unquote, by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys, which I understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testifies. Is that what your recollection is of that statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything in the statement that on reflection you think is not correct?
No, ma'am.
All right. Number 3, she also instructed the jury to, quote, watch him closely, quote, immediately before he testified, including, quote, look at his actions, quote, and, quote, look at his movements, quote, which I understood to mean he was guilty. Is that an accurate recitation of your view of the matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Number 4, paragraph 4. Immediately after he testified, the foreperson said Mr. Murdaugh was crying on cue. Is that an accurate statement of what you saw and heard?
Yes, ma'am.
5, the foreperson criticized the former foreperson for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand while testifying about his murdered son. She told the jury we cannot interact with Mr. Murdaugh because that's what the defense wants us to do. Do you still stand by that recitation of that conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Number 6, the jury frequently discussed the case during breaks before deliberation. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Number 7, toward the end of the trial, Ms. Hill came into the jury room a lot. Is that your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hill and the foreperson had private conversations on multiple occasions. The foreperson would tell the bailiff that she needed to speak with Ms. Hill. Ms. Hill would arrive, and then she and the foreperson would go to another room for a private conversation. The conversations typically lasted 5 to 10 minutes. The foreperson never said anything about the content of the conversation. For example, she never communicated logistical information after these conversations. This happened 2 or more times, more frequently towards the end of the trial. Is that still your recollection of the interaction?
Yes, ma'am.
9, when we began deliberations, Ms. Hill told us this shouldn't take us long, quote. And if we deliberated past 11 p.m., we would be taken directly to a hotel. We had driven from our homes that morning and were not prepared to stay overnight. Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, but they were told they could not smoke until after the deliberations were complete.
Yeah.
Did you hear that,
Yes, ma'am.
including the business about the smokers?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That's bad. Bad for the
Number
clerk.
10, I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by the other jurors. Is that an accurate statement about your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
After the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Ms. Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group to reporters from a television show. Is that an accurate statement of what she said?
Yes, ma'am.
And did some jurors decline to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, Yeah, let me get back. Where are my questions? Juror Z, I asked you previously, was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way by communications from Becky Hill, the clerk of court? You answered that question, yes. In light of what you said in the affidavit, which is I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by the other jurors. Is that answer that I just read a more accurate statement of how you felt?
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you do stand by the affidavit?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Thank you. You may go to the jury room.
I was waiting for a
And
question.
let me just explain to you what the procedure will be. I'm calling the rest of the jurors, of course, one by one. When I'm finished with that, I will bring you out as a group one more time, and then you're free to leave. You don't have to stay. Okay? Very good. You may go to the jury room. What's that?
Before this juror is excused, but after she steps out, I'd like to address
All
the
right.
court.
All right. You may be excused.
I was waiting for a question about like were you influenced by jurors and the court clerk, or were you influenced by jurors, or you know what I mean, like to clarify that. But I think that ultimately it's on the record. It's on the record that she said that she was influenced by Becky Hill.
Your Honor, just very quickly, I do have a redacted copy I can hand up to the court if you want to make
So, of
that
course,
use
the
of
state's
court's
gonna be
exhibit is with me.
All over.
That's good. What I'm
That
going to try to
affidavit.
do is redact
And yeah,
as
Lindsay,
I
as you say,
did,
both can be true,
in the,
100%. Because
as you did in
those
the
other
document
jurors
that
also
you
could have been
sent me.
influenced by the clerk.
Identifying thing
He has-
redacted now.
He has an extra copy of the redacted.
I have it
Oh,
right here.
oh, good. That's great. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Show it to Mr. Harpootlian.
I've seen.
Very good. Thank you. That's the one I will give to the court reporter, but I think you can see that I asked off of it.
Mountain Princess 207, did she have to think? I know you were referring to the slow
This is a
response
court's
time.
exhibit.
I think honestly that was a result of her
Court's exhibit
nerves.
three.
She probably was
Right, just
taking
be
her
clear,
time to
that does
answer.
still have the juror
Probably was
numbers
advised
in
by
it. It
someone
does
to
not
do
have
that.
Letters.
All right. What I'd ask you to do, Elizabeth, is take off the juror numbers, just strike them through, and then where it says affidavit of juror and gives a number, just strike that out, and you can put in pen Z. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Harper.
Your Honor, we objected to the questioning because this juror gave two statements under oath, one in an affidavit and one here to you today. The one here today was Becky Hill influenced her verdict.
Yes.
The one she gave in an affidavit 6 months ago was based on jurors. It could be both.
True.
Your Honor picked out the one in the affidavit from 6 months ago and said, is that a more accurate statement? That presupposes and suggests to her what she should say. And we believe that this juror's testimony, and Your Honor, I'm afraid what you're going to say is, well, she said the affidavit was more accurate than what she testified under oath here today, and therefore I'm not going to consider her testimony. And I think that's where we're heading here. I'd ask you to bring her back in, explain to her there's nothing wrong with it both being true.
Yeah.
I decline to do that and overrule the objection. All right.
Well, I'm sure he's going to want, it's on the record. He can appeal it, but.
Mr. Bailiff? Yes, sir.
Okay. Debbie Faison on Cook says, does she even need to even question the other jurors? Yes. Yes, they're still going to want to question every single one of them. Part of it is, if the affidavit means that the judge basically disregards her testimony in court on this first one, the defense might need some other jurors to be on their side on this one. It's crazy. They need every juror that they can get, really. Debbie, my question is, are you going to stream the new trial if they do have one? If they do have one, and I'm not once again moving to a new country, then yeah, 100%. I'm very interested in this. Late, could Becky Hill go to prison for this? I think prison time is on the table for Becky Hill. There has to be a whole trial where she is the defendant, though. That would not be a result of this hearing. It would be the result of her own criminal case, her own criminal trial. Tristram Lett. I have a dumb question. No such thing exists. What are the consequences of the jury tampering? Isn't he already going to spend his life?
Counsel, I have to report this to you, and I'm very, very unhappy about it, but there's nothing to do but put it on the record, and then I will proceed with questioning the rest of the jurors. The jurors' cell phones were not confiscated or taken from them, and they tuned this thing in on court TV and listened to all of what just went on. So you may make whatever statement you like to make, and then I'm going to go on and question the jurors. I will tell you in advance, I am not going to stop the proceedings or do anything to interrupt them. I'm going to get the rest of this on the record. You might imagine that they no longer have their cell phones with them.
Your Honor, we have a 5-minute recess to discuss what we need to put on the record. I mean, this is.
I'm not going to take all day on this thing. I report things as they come to me. I will give you a couple of minutes, and then we're going to. They were late getting here. I didn't get to start on time like I wanted to, so I need to just calm down a little bit. But I tell you, don't take any long period of time. Court will be in recess for 5 minutes.
Oh my God! So the bailiff failed to take the cell phones away from the jurors, and people were listening into court TV. Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? In a case like this, where it's already like the issue is already about improprieties around the jury. Like, you don't have that locked down. Are you kidding me? And then if you are the jurors, like, you know that the subject of this hearing is like what happened with the jurors and how things may have gone improper. Like, I don't what is happening here? Like, what is actually happening here? This is insane. I never would have anticipated any of this happening. I just, I can't, I can't. I just, everybody look at Indy so we can all calm down. Oh my God. I still have the feed up, so we'll hear it when it comes back. But I mean, that's gotta be like item number one is taking their cell phones. Oh my gosh. I know she's just snoozing. Okay, let's get another question here. Oh man, I've just started to like dip my toes in this case, and it's already insanity. Good Lord. Okay, so hang on, let me make sure I capture this question over here. Okay. Tristram Lett, I have a dumb question. Like I said, no such thing. What are the consequences of the jury tampering? Isn't he already going to spend his life in prison? He is going to spend his life in prison for the financial, or I think it's 27 years for the financial crimes, if I remember correctly. The whole purpose is, even though someone has been convicted of something else, we still have to make sure that every single conviction that is leveled against him is done so properly and with due process. So even though yes, his day-to-day circumstances in the near future will not be changing by this verdict being overturned, assuming that it is overturned, it has an impact. It can have an impact on whether any of his time can get shortened, on a number of things. But mostly at the end of the day, we still need to make sure that the people that we are putting in prison are being put in prison through due process. That's the real that's the real crux of the issue here. Culperistic, do you think this will lead to any additional instructions for jurors, like clarifying that court personnel is specifically included in people who should not be talking to you about the case? I would hope so. I would really hope so, and I would hope that other court clerks in trials around South Carolina and everywhere, to be honest with you, I hope that they are a little bit more careful about these kinds of things, about talking about the case and about, making any kind of comments about anything having to do with the case. I would hope so. But then again, seeing this huge error that just happened with the jurors and their cell phones and actually playing court TV while the hearing was going on. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has learned from any of this. Oh, right. Let me see here. Let me save some more questions here. Answering another one. Mindy, question. I need this explained again. The bailiff didn't take the cell phones, so they left their cell phones open to friends and family so they could listen in on the hearing. No, I think that what happened was the jurors still had their cell phones. And from what the judge said, she said that 2 of the jurors were listening in on court TV. I think she meant that they had maybe YouTube open with court TV on, and they were just watching the hearing, which is like, you have to understand that the whole point in putting them in the jury room while one juror is testifying is so that they don't hear what's going on, that they don't know what's happening. They're supposed to be shielded from that. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Anyhow, Shiro Kana, Legal Bites, you're moving to a new country? Not anytime soon, hopefully. But during the Murdaugh trial, the murder trial, a year ago, I was in the middle of a major move, which was why I didn't stream it. It just everything was just completely uprooted. So I did not have my stuff in place. Um, so yeah, hopefully if there is a second trial, I will not be going through that at the same time. Debbie Faison Cook, member for 14 months. Thanks again for being a member for so long, Debbie. Love this channel and this chat. Thanks, Alita. Of course. And thank you. Thank you so much for being a wonderful member of Bite Club. And of course, a wonderful mod as well. Derek Boodle, Legal Bites, please explain fruit of the poisonous tree and how it relates to both trials. So fruit of the poisonous tree. So it means evidence that comes in has to have been collected properly. If it was collected, let's say there was a warrantless search of someone's home and it didn't fall under any exceptions to Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I'm so wow, I was really surprised by that.
Just a minute. Now, you about to do something that I've already said I'm not going to allow to happen. And that is, you've got standing next to you a member of the team that represents the juror. I can tell you,
TV
Mr.
did that to me on
Harpootlian,
purpose.
I'm not,
I felt very
I made a
purposeful.
ruling early on that when Mr. McCullough was in court, when Mr. Bland was in court, that I was not going to allow the attorneys to participate in formulating the procedure for this hearing. But I indicated that I would not allow the lawyers for jurors to participate in this hearing. And so I'm not going to do that. I can just tell you that. And if what you want to do is by indirection tell me what the lawyers for the juror would say, I'm not going to accept that.
Your Honor, my understanding is she'd like to approach to ask if the juror can be excused.
No, not yet.
Your Honor, I actually approached,
Now, Mr. McCullough can be excused. There's still plenty of you lawyers and you can do it. I didn't want him to come to begin with, so I love him dearly and he can go anytime. And I speak on behalf of Amy McCullough, his wife, when I tell you that.
Your Honor, I actually was here to let both of them know that I was going to ask to approach to talk about a security issue
All
very
right, well,
quickly.
come up here. Lord knows, I tell you what, Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong
Oh my
at the worst
God.
possible time. And Murphy was an optimist.
That's really funny. Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it this way. Hopefully I don't get shocked by the audio once again. Good Lord. Okay, so Derek Boodle, to answer your question, when you have evidence that has been improperly gathered, let's say the police did not execute a warrant, they searched someone's home, it didn't fall under any of the exceptions to a warrantless search. That's evidence that is fruit of the poisonous tree. It's poisonous tree because it's improperly gathered. So when it has not been gathered in a way that is legal, that follows due process, that is not going to be allowed in court. So that's it cannot be entered in as evidence. It sucks when you'll see this in a lot of TV shows. Like they'll just like my husband and I started watching Reacher. And there are like so many things like that going on in the show where they're just like, oh, it's, Fourth Amendment. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, it's whatever. We need this. We need this information. So just go get it. It's fine. It's whatever. And meanwhile, I'm like sitting on the couch with Mr. Bites and I'm like shouting at the screen, like, no, that's not how it's done. But and then other times where it's like, oh, just casually murdering people. And having to explain to Mr. Bites that no, it's not self-defense if you shoot two people in the back, even if they have guns. Anyway, but back to your question. So in terms of how it relates to both trials, I'm not, unfortunately, versed enough in the specific details as to what came in, what didn't come in, and what was a result of maybe an improper search. But that's what that basically means. Debbie Faison Cook gifted 1 Legal Bites membership earlier. Thank you so much for gifting that. Very kind and generous of you. Culperistic, you're back in Bite Club, so welcome back. Let's see here, and I think. Let's see here. There are some more questions here that I may have missed while I was watching other stuff. Oh, yeah, Kid in the City. Even if their phones weren't confiscated, they should have known not to check Court TV. 100%. Absolutely. 100% those jurors should have known. Yeah, Robbie Dobby, this is a mess. A good thing. This is such a seasoned judge. I agree. I absolutely agree. She's great. She's great. Shiro Kana is a Southerner. I'm clutching my chest. I hear you. This is just crazy. Here, Draco Amy uploads. I like this judge too. What's her name? Her name is Judge Jean Toll, Toal. And yes, I like her quite a bit. Amanda Stillman, question: what are the odds that Becky Hill is watching this on Court TV right now? I don't know, because she's testifying in the afternoon. So I don't. I don't know if they barred her from watching the testimony as well. I would imagine so. Usually that's what happens these days. Although after watching the Menendez trial from 1993, I realized that's not always the case. I had kind of taken that for granted because every single trial that I had ever watched or been a part of had always had that as a rule, that if you are a witness in a hearing or a trial, you're not allowed to watch any of the other testimony unless you're, say, the defendant or one of the parties, one of the named parties. So, but that's not always the case, it seems. Guy Wren, that juror is now sitting in the jury room with the others who just watched her testimony. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I wonder how that's going down too. Nihilus Craig, does being a lawyer ruin a lot of TV shows? It does. It really does. Unfortunately. Lasdrin, are there any consequences for the bailiff
Please
after
be
this?
seated.
There might be, you know, a serious reprimand at the very least.
Let me place upon the record 2 things. First of all, I have made certain now that a bailiff will be in the jury room with these jurors. Why that, I announced that many times, that is the way it was to run. Why there wasn't a juror in the jury room is something I don't know, but I have asked that be followed rigidly. I've also asked, I don't go into jury rooms, never have and never will, but I asked the bailiff to tell the jurors that they are not to discuss any testimony that any of them are giving. I asked Juror Z whether she was comfortable, because I would be glad to place her in a separate room so that she's not set upon by the rest of the jurors. She gave me a big smile and said she was perfectly comfortable. And I said, at any time you're not comfortable, you simply tell me and I will have you placed in either my office or another jury room. So that's where I left it with Juror Z. I think she's fine, but I just wanted to make sure of that. And again, on the record, the conversation I had with her was outside the jury room. I don't go into the jury room for any reason. Very good. Mr. Bailey? Yes, sir.
For the record, Your Honor, we would ask, as jurors are brought in, we would ask that you ask them if they watched or heard anything this morning from their cell phone or other jurors about what occurred in here this morning with
Yeah,
Juror
that's fair.
Z. And if so, what was it?
I'm going to say, ask each one of them something about this. Whether it's exactly what you want, I don't know. But I will ask them something about this or make some direction to them about it. I'm not going to get into a who shot John about what they said in that jury room today. I'm not going to do that. But I will try to, as best I can, deal with this question of of them hearing parts of the examination of Juror Z.
Your Honor, this morning, I think you already instructed them not to discuss these matters
I have.
among themselves. So if they have violated that, again, I think it's important for you to make that inquiry.
I'm going to make it as I see fit.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. All right. Bring me Juror C. C.
Juror C. Really quick, Draco Amy, question: who is the defendant and the prosecutor in this situation? The attorney sitting next to Murdaugh, who's right here on camera, those are the defense attorneys. Harpootlian, the one with the light blue tie, he's the one that's been objecting a lot, making a lot of comments to the judge. He's a defense attorney. The guys at the other table next to him are the prosecutors, or the state, I believe, is the attorney general's office, deputy attorney generals.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give today to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I will address you as Juror C because I've designated from your juror number at Colleton to letters of the alphabet. I'm trying to protect the anonymity of the jurors as best I can. I can't promise you with all the time that they spent seeing you all in the trial of the case that they won't figure out who is who. But on my record here, which is all I can control, I will address you as Juror C.
Yes, ma'am.
And before I begin, I understand that there may have been some cell phones activated in the jury room and the watching of the questioning of Juror Z. Did that take place?
I know people were on cell phones, but I'm not sure of what they were watching.
Were you on a telephone?
No, ma'am, I was not.
Very good. I don't think I have to go any further then. Thank you, sir. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2022.
They did. This one.
The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. And the court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your hand. The transcript then indicated that the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Becky Hill, Clerk of Court of Colleton County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am. I wasn't privy to any of that.
All right, sir. Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Very good. That completes my questions. You may retire to the jury room.
You may retire. Don, I didn't know that. So Dick Harpootlian is also a South Carolina state senator. That's interesting. Yeah, if you guys are enjoying this and you haven't done so already, please do like the stream. It does really help with getting it pushed out to more people. right. So that was a lot faster. That was about what I had anticipated everything else was going to go. I did not expect the fireworks from the first juror.
Bring me Juror F.
Okay. Here we go. Shereen, F is in fun.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have designated the jurors by a letter, and that's how I will be addressing you this morning, and I will be addressing you as Juror F. Now, I realize that you folks were on the jury for a long time, over 6 weeks, and people may know who you are, despite my efforts to protect this record. But to the extent I can, I will protect this record and your anonymity as a juror in this record. So just wanted you to understand why I'm addressing you as Juror F. This morning, it was brought to my attention that some jurors were perhaps on their phones listening or looking at a broadcast of the questions to the first juror I examined, Juror Z. Is that something that you know anything about or experienced?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you activate your own phone?
Another juror did.
All right. And
Ooh.
will what you saw and what you looked at in any way affect your testimony as you're about to give it?
No, ma'am.
Very good. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court and signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript that indicates that the juror complied. The jury was individually polled and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Was your answer an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Absolutely.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way by any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
Absolutely not.
Very good.
Not just no, but absolutely not.
That's all the questions I have.
I'd like to discuss the matter with you before we finish with this.
You may go to your jury room and keep yourself ready. I don't know if I'm going to have any further questions, but as far as I'm concerned, the questions that I'm asking are at an end, but I need to consult with the attorneys before I can dismiss you. You may go to your jury room.
Please don't be on your phone. Well, it's probably, I mean, I imagine it's been taken away. Oh, boy.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, in interviewing the clerk of court for Barnwell County, who worked as an assistant to Ms. Hill during this trial, and interviewing the alternate juror who was not, I mean, wasn't needed, wasn't dismissed for any particular reason other than it wasn't needed. Both of them indicate they believe that Ms. Hill transported this juror by her personal vehicle or a bailiff's vehicle at least once during the trial. So I would ask you ask her, during the trial, did Becky Hill either drive or ride with you in a vehicle before or after court? If so, what, if anything, did Becky Hill and you discuss?
All right, what's your position on that, Mr. Waters?
Your Honor, I have no objection to that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, all right. All right, bring the juror. This is Juror C, returning to the stand.
Juror C. So we're back to, okay.
The same juror. Yes.
The same juror, do you mean juror F? If it's a man's voice versus woman's voice, then we know.
Thank you, ma'am. Of course, you're still
Okay,
under oath.
juror F.
And I have this question for
So
you.
this is juror F, not juror C.
During the trial, did Becky Hill either drive or ride with you in a vehicle before or after court? If so, what, if anything, did Becky Hill and you discuss? Do you recall that at all?
Could you please ask that again?
Ma'am?
Could you please ask the question again?
Sure.
Sorry.
During the trial, did Becky Hill either drive or ride with you in a vehicle before or after court?
No, ma'am.
All right, then I don't need to ask the second question. This will conclude your testimony. You are dismissed. I'm going to ask the jurors to stay with me until I've completed this process. And then
Contrary
you
to
are
what two
free
other
to go.
people said, but
Thank you so much.
that's her testimony. It's on the record. Oh, boy. Daniel Granger, this judge does not want to call this trial.
Juror F,
No judge really wants to, is the thing.
4.
It's, you call a mistrial if you have to. And we might have enough here to call this a mistrial. I think they should,
All right, bring in Juror L.
just based off of the first juror's testimony.
L, as in Lima, yes.
L is in Lima. All right. Juror L.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start absorbing a South Carolina accent at some point. It's going to happen.
Place your left hand on the Bible, right hand up, and face the cloak.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case today to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you so much. I have redesignated each of the jurors in the record for this case. And so I will be referring to you as Juror L, as in Lima. And, you know, y'all are all on this jury. If these people saw you for 6 weeks, they may know or be able to identify you, but I'm trying to, as best I can, protect your anonymity. You don't have to talk to anybody about this at all. That's purely your prerogative.
You are not required to talk to the media.
Oh, yeah.
She's speaking in
Juror
military
L,
alphabet by saying
before,
Lima.
You came to testify and were sworn. You were in the jury room with the other jurors. I understand that some may have looked at their cell phones and looked at pictures of the proceedings as they involved the first juror who was examined. Did you see any of that?
People had their phones out. Yes, ma'am.
Did you look at any of it?
No, ma'am.
All right. And I don't need to ask you anything further about that. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury, and the court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was then individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, Madam Justice. Yes.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes, Justice. Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Becky Hill, the clerk of court for Colleton County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am.
Was your verdict on March 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Juror L, thank you, and you are dismissed. I will send word back by the bailiff if there are any further questions. I always ask the lawyers that before I dismiss the juror completely and go to the next one. Please know that I will keep you in case there's anything I need to have the whole jury for at the end of this proceeding. Then you're free to go, and you don't have to speak to a soul about any of this. Thank you, sir.
Hashtag died suddenly. Phonetic alphabet. Thank you. I always call it the military alphabet because that's the context I always hear it in is, you know, Alpha Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if phonetic alphabet is, I guess, the way that you say it. Wither away.
Anything further,
Mr. From
Mr.
the state, Your Honor.
Nothing to defense, Your Honor.
Very good. All right, Mr. Bailiff.
Ooh, next one.
Bring me Juror E.
E is in Edward.
Yes.
E is an echo. Witheraway had this question: are the jurors also in the room and the camera is just not recording them for privacy? They're in a different room. I think someone already answered this for you probably, but just to make sure, they're in a different room. Unfortunately, they have their cell phones.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Sir, I will be addressing you as Juror E this morning. I've designated the jurors by letter. I realize that you sat on this jury in Colleton County for a lengthy period of time, 6 weeks or better, and people may know who you are. But to the extent I can make this record that protects your anonymity, I am doing that. You don't have to speak to a soul about this matter after you're finished, and your service will be complete, as I'm sure you thought it would be when you rendered your verdict. I have these questions. You rendered a verdict. Oh, yes. It was brought to my attention that cell phones of the jurors were accessed in the jury room for a time, and that some were able to examine the broadcast of the testimony of the first juror called Juror Z. Was your cell phone one of those activated to look at the proceedings?
No, ma'am.
Did you look at the proceedings on any other cell phone?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Now,
I want to know
you
who
rendered
did
your
it.
verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
It was.
Was your verdict based entirely upon the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No.
Thank you, sir. That
I think
completes
most of
my
the jurors are probably
questions. You
gonna
may
answer
go
like
to the
that.
jury room. I always consult with the lawyers to see if there are any further questions. If there are not, please stay with the jury until I dismiss all of you. I'm hoping that won't be too much longer. Thank you, sir.
Based on the affidavits that were filed with the defense motion, it
All right.
sounded like it was like one, maybe two
Anything from the state?
that were making
From the
that
defendant.
allegation.
Very good. Bring me Juror P, as in Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, which juror did she say they're bringing in? I missed it. P. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. He's in
Do you swear or
Papa.
affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I will be addressing you as Juror P, as in Paul. I've tried to redesignate the jurors without their number and, of course, without their name. Now, I realize you spent 6 long weeks hearing this case in open court in Colleton, and many people may know who you are anyway. But to the extent that I can make this record such that it protects your anonymity, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
And you certainly are not obligated to talk with one soul about this matter.
Oh, what's going on? Why? We're still live. My internet is fine. So what's going on here? Court TV, what's happening? Damn it.
Did you have your cell
Okay.
phone?
No, ma'am.
Did you examine any cell phone broadcasts?
There was a couple people, but I have no clue what they were viewing.
Yes, sir. Okay. Did any of this activity by other people in viewing this material have any impact on you in terms of your testimony today?
No, ma'am.
All right. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
It was.
Did you hear Becky Hill, Clerk of Court for Clarendon County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
What did she say?
It was the day that Mr. Murdaugh was taking the stand,
Yes, sir.
and she made a comment about watch his body language.
About watch his
body language.
body language, I see.
Yes, ma'am.
And what else?
That's all I can recall.
All right, sir. Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No.
All right.
Okay.
That completes my questions.
We heard a comment, but it didn't
Juror,
influence him.
E, or
P.
P, Juror P. You may go to your jury room. You are free to refuse to discuss this with anybody. That's your prerogative. You're not required to talk about this anymore. That's your business. I've tried to do the best I could to confine this thing, but I appreciate your service. Thank you, sir, and you may go to your jury room.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions by the state?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right, by the defendant.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Bring me Juror O. O.
So it's Trenton. We do have two jurors confirming inappropriate contact now, but one of them said that he wasn't influenced. So his testimony would not result in the conviction being overturned. The other one, though, probably would be, unless she decides to ignore it because the affidavit said that the other jurors, influenced her. Okay, now testifying. Juror O is an Oscar. Juror.
You swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to your truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Juror O. I have designated the jurors by letter in this record so as to try to protect your anonymity as best I can. Now, I realize you sat on this case for 6 weeks in open court in Colleton County, and many may know your identity. But to the extent I can, with the record of this matter, I'm trying to preserve your identity from any disclosure in this court. Juror O, I understand that several jurors may have activated their cell phone during the testimony of the first juror and looked at the proceedings. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you activate your cell phone?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you watch any of the other cell phones?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Very good. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this matter?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Very good. That concludes my questions. You may return to your jury room. I ask that you stay until I've completed the questioning of the jurors. You don't have to talk to a soul about this matter. It's purely your prerogative. And if you have any difficulties in that matter, let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
You are excused.
Very quickly, I think question 2. I don't know that we did question 2.
Resume your seat. Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Very good. You're excused. Thank you, Mr. Water.
All right, who's next?
All right, bring me Juror Y.
Y as in a Yankee.
Oh, excuse me, sorry. All right, nothing further, Ms. Waters. Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I will be addressing you as Juror Y. I've tried to re-identify the jurors so as to preserve your anonymity in this record. Now, I know that you sat on this case for 6 weeks in open court, and many have seen you. They may know who you are. But as to the extent I can preserve your anonymity in the record of this case, I have tried to do so. You are completely free not to talk to a soul about this matter. That's always your prerogative. I understand that before you came out here, when the first juror to be examined was being examined, that some jurors may have activated their cell phones. Were you one who activated your cell phone?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware that some cell phones might have been activated?
I was aware after that.
All right, sir. Did you hear anything about the examination of the first juror?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? And each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
Not to me, ma'am.
Did you hear her make a comment to anybody else?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware, ma'am.
All right, so you don't remember any details of any conversation?
No, ma'am.
All right, sir. Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way by any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. That completes my questions. I'm going to excuse you. Stay together with the other jurors until I've completed my examination, and then you will be free to go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, whoever did have their phone out,
Anything further from the state? From the defense?
Your Honor.
Very good.
we're gonna have to fess up because they were caught. So they'll know that they're testifying under penalty of perjury.
Bring me Juror W.
W as in whiskey.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I'll address you as Juror W. I have redesignated by letter the identities of the jurors as I question them today.
Yes, ma'am.
You sat on this jury for 6 long weeks, and I'm sure that those who were there in the trial for a long period of time may know who you are. I'm just doing the very best I can to make your participation in this matter anonymous, and I will preserve that anonymity. You are free to not talk to one single soul about this if you don't want to. That's purely your prerogative.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that when the first juror was being questioned, some members of the jury, as you were back in the jury room, may have activated their cell phones. Were you one who activated your cell phone?
No, ma'am. I left my phone in the car.
And did you hear any information coming from anybody else's cell phones about that examination?
I did.
All right. Does that have any impact on the testimony you are going to give today?
No, ma'am.
Very good. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill, the clerk of court for Clarendon County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this matter?
No, ma'am.
Very good. That is the end of my questions, Madam Juror. You may go to the jury room, stay with the jury until I've completed the questioning, and then you're free to go, and you're free not to say anything you don't want to say. And if anybody upsets you or bothers you in any way about that, you just let the court know.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any further questions from the state? Any further questions?
Nothing
from
for the defense, Your
defense?
Honor.
Very good. All right. Bring me Juror Q.
Q. Juror Q.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good morning. I will be referring to you as Juror Q. I have redesignated every one of the jurors by a letter. And in that way, I'm trying to protect your anonymity in these proceedings. Now, I realize that you spent 6 long weeks hearing this case in open court in Colleton County. And some folk may know who you are, but I'm trying to protect your anonymity in these proceedings as best I can. You don't have to speak to a soul about these proceedings after you have completed your testimony. That's purely up to you. And if anybody hassles you about anything, the court stands ready to assist. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer
Yes, ma'am, it was.
about your verdict at the time?
Yes.
All right. Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes, it was.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communication by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Very good.
They didn't ask about the phone.
You may be excused, and if you'll just stay in the jury room till we've completed the
State's gonna
examination
get
of
up.
all the jurors. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your Honor, very briefly, I know we were doing the cell phone inquiry.
Yes.
With various jurors.
Yes.
I didn't know if you wanted to have that with this particular juror as well.
Sure.
Yep.
I understand that before I began questioning you or the other jurors on the questioning of the first jurors, some jurors in the assembly room may have activated their cell phones. Were you one of the jurors that activated your cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
And was anything that you heard at that time something that has any influence or effect on the testimony you now give under oath?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Anything further?
I want to know
You go
why.
to the jury room.
Why did he think that was okay?
For the state.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Bring me Juror K.
All right, Juror K. Might be one of the last ones. Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is 11. Yeah, this is the 11th one today, and there was one on Friday. So this might be our last one. Shireen K isn't kicking himself. Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. I will be addressing you as Juror K. I redesignated each of you jurors and gave you a letter for purposes of this hearing. I'm trying to protect your anonymity as best I can. Now, I realize you sat for 6 long weeks on this case in Colleton County, and many folk may know who you are. But on the record of this matter, as best I can, I'm trying to preserve your anonymity. Please know that you don't have to answer anybody's questions about this matter in any way, shape, or form, purely up to you. And if anything is done that you feel is harassing or makes you uncomfortable, you contact the court. We'll try to do as best I can to help in that situation.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I understand that during the testimony of the first juror, some opened their cell phones in the jury room, in our jury assembly room here. Were you one who opened her cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you listen to or watch the broadcast of that first juror's examination?
We were on Facebook.
Ma'am?
I was on Facebook
It was on Facebook, and you watched it.
when we closed it.
All right. Did anything that you heard in that Facebook cell phone access impact or influence your testimony in this matter in any way?
No.
All right. You rendered a verdict on March the 2nd, 2023. The verdict was read in open court, signed by the foreperson of the jury. The court then said, Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is your verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hand. The transcript then indicates the jurors complied. The jury was individually polled, and each was asked, was that your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Each juror was then asked, is that still your verdict? Each juror answered yes. Was that an accurate answer about your verdict at that time?
Yes.
Was your verdict based entirely on the testimony, evidence, and law presented to you in this case?
Yes.
Did you hear Ms. Becky Hill, the clerk of court for Colleton County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No.
Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023, influenced in any way with any communications by the clerk of court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. That completes my questions. I'll let you go to the jury room now. I'll then ask the attorneys whether there are any further questions. If there are not, please just stay in the jury assembly room until I give you the word that you are all to come out one more time and I dismiss you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so it was just Juror Z who said A.
For the
I heard comments
state.
B, they influenced me.
Nothing for the defense, Your Honor.
Very good.
Not me to do a thumbs up.
This then completes the questioning of the jurors. I will ask the jurors to come into the open courtroom again, thank them and dismiss them. Anything further before I do that?
None from the state, Your Honor.
Yeah, it was one juror who has admitted to being influenced. That was Juror Z,
Your Honor,
unless
I would,
Juror X
move for the record that I be
also
able
testified that way.
to question Juror Z to follow up on what I believe the court is confused about.
Very good. I deny the request. Anything further?
I don't
All right,
blame him
bring
for
me the
trying.
jury.
I don't blame him for trying because he really wants it to be clear that she still is saying that she was influenced by the clerk of court. There were two who heard Becky Boba Fett, but only one of them said that she was influenced by that. So both elements have to be met in order for that to lead to a mistrial or to lead to his conviction being taken away and then getting granted a new trial. So is that first juror from this morning enough? I don't know. I would think so, but this judge might not agree with that.
Juror C, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that completes the court's examination of the jurors in this matter. I can only deeply apologize to you for having to inconvenience you so long after the trial of this case to come here, and I very much appreciate your candor. There are no right or wrong answers to the questions I asked you, but I think each of you, to the best of your ability, answered the questions, and I am deeply grateful for that, as is the state of South Carolina, as is the defendant. You don't have to speak to a soul about this matter if you don't want to. That's purely your prerogative. If there's any difficulty you encounter about this hearing that I can help with, please contact the court, and I'll be happy to do so. You're dismissed this time. You may go. Thank you for your service. Excuse the jurors. All right, Mr. Waters, is the clerk of court available?
Yes, ma'am. It's my understanding she is, and state's prepared to call her when court is ready.
Oh,
All right.
But she, I believe she's at a location. Mr. Lewis is here, just a block or two away. So if we take a brief recess, we'd be prepared to present her after that.
Well, I will entertain going on and taking an early lunch break. I don't know how long Ms. Hill's testimony is going to take, but if that might be a better thing than hanging around here, I think that's what I would prefer to do. Mr. Harpootlian?
Your Honor, I need sustenance.
Okay. Well, good. I think I would join you in that. What I will do is I will recess court until 1:15. Please return at 1:15.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, about an hour and a half. Okay. So that is about an hour and a half for lunch. I love how she called that a brief recess. That's not a brief recess. So yes, Becky Hill will be testifying. She is that was already scheduled for her to testify in the afternoon. So we are right on schedule for this hearing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to end the stream and then I'm going to start a new stream in another hour and a half at 1:15 East Coast time. So look out for a new link. I'll post it on YouTube as a community post. I'm also going to post it on Twitter. I should have done that for the first one, but I didn't. But I will 100% be streaming the afternoon session. So yeah, this has already been a crazy, wild day in this case, because I was not anticipating half of that drama. I mean, the cell phone, excuse me, the cell phone drama, and then also the first juror right out of the gate saying, yes, the clerk of court influenced my decision in this verdict, because she made it seem like he was already guilty, and that influenced me. That's pretty wild. Now will the judge say, okay, but you also said in this affidavit that the other jurors influenced you? Because truth be told, her affidavit doesn't say anything about the clerk of court actually influencing her. The affidavit does say that she was influenced by the other jurors. And the problem with that for the defense is that, an affidavit is, generally speaking, it's not written by the person who is the affiant. It's not the person who signs it, right? They read it, they verify it, but it's written by a lawyer. It's generally speaking written by a lawyer, and it usually is reviewed several times before it gets signed and submitted and everything. So the problem for the defense is like, why didn't they double check with her before that affidavit was written and signed and everything, and ensure that piece was in there if that was what she was saying at the time. That is a little bit of an issue with the defense for her, but she did say, while she was testifying, she said she was influenced by the clerk of court. That influenced her decision in the verdict. And as her, I completely agree with the defense attorney, with Dick Harpootlian, that two things can be true at the same time. She can be influenced by the other jurors, and she can also be influenced by the clerk of court. And where the issue is the clerk of court's behavior, you're asking her about whether the clerk influenced her, and she says, yes, that's on the record now. So will the judge keep that in mind, or will the judge basically ignore that and pay more attention to the affidavit? I don't know. If I'm deciding this case, it's a mistrial. It's going back for a new trial. That's my opinion. I really think that should be, because she still said it on the record. She still testified to that. She never backtracked. When she was brought back in to go over the affidavit, she never said, well, no, actually, I wasn't actually influenced by the clerk of court. So yeah, so that's where I'm at after this part. I am very much looking forward to seeing the testimony of Becky Hill. Her testimony is going to look a little bit different. It's going to look more like a traditional witness testimony, like everybody else is used to, where you've got the state is going to do her direct examination, the defense is going to do her cross examination. So you're going to see the defense attorneys grilling her on cross. And we'll see how that shapes up. I mean, she's definitely in the hot seat, not just for this, but also for the other stuff that has come out. What is it? The whole book issue, using public funds for private gain, there's all kinds of allegations against her right now that are very, very serious, that she's going to have to work through. Those other side matters, like I said at the beginning of this stream, those other matters that don't have to do with her communications with the jurors during the trial, are not supposed to come in this hearing. The judge told the defense, no, I'm not allowing that. That's outside the scope of this particular hearing. But we'll see if they manage to convince the judge that somehow the state has opened the door and allowed them to cover it. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of these things can happen. So, all right. That for me about does it. Everybody else, you have your hour and 20 minutes now for sustenance. I hope to see you at 1:15 East Coast time. And if I see you live or on replay, either way, I hope I see you guys around here so we can all watch the rest of this hearing together. This has been so wild. But that for me about does it. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday, whatever is left of it, wherever you're watching from around the world. And yes, hope to see you guys back here very, very soon.